Welcome back, everybody, to Shifty's 49ers Talk. In today's video, we're going to do my Week 3 power rankings, and we compare it to last week, where all of my teams ranked from 2nd to 6th. They all lost, so safe to say there's going to be a lot of changes in this video. Stay tuned for that, but first, the intro. As usual, you guys, we're going to kick it off with my bottom 3 teams, and then we'll go to my top 10 teams. And coming in at 3rd from the bottom, 30th overall, we have the New York Giants. The Giants lost to the Washington Commanders in Week 2. It was a pretty close game, though, and the Giants put up some fight. They scored 18 points, and you're probably assuming, well, they kicked 6 field goals to get there, and it was actually not that at all. They actually didn't kick any field goals, not even extra points. They scored 3 touchdowns, no extra points. Their kicker gets hurt first kick of the game, and then they're going for 2. They just can't kick any field goals. They don't get any of the 2-point conversions, and they end up losing to the Commanders, but at least they put up a fight in this game, which is more than what you can say for one of the teams, at least later on. Now coming in at 2nd from the bottom, 31st overall, we have the Denver Broncos, and they lose to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Bo Nix is not looking good. Sean Payton as a head coach is not looking good. And while I do want to pump the brakes a little bit before people are saying, Bo Nix, he's a bust, he went up against Mike McDonald at Seattle. That's a really good defensive coach with some good defensive talent there on the road week 1, and then you go up against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have superstar defensive players across their defense, so we can't write them off just yet. It's only 2 games, but it's not looking good, and they need to get their act together because it looks ugly out there for Bo Nix, and you just don't want to destroy his confidence. He needs to put up some yards, make some plays moving forward, or else it could come crashing down really quickly. And speaking of coming crashing down really quickly, we have my 32nd team, the worst team in the NFL heading into Week 3, and that is obviously the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers just lost to the LA Chargers. They got absolutely destroyed Week 1 against the New Orleans Saints, and already the Panthers have made a change at quarterback. 2023's number 1 overall pick Bryce Young benched in favor of the longtime veteran Andy Dalton, and I don't really know how to feel about this move for the Panthers. In one sense, you're maybe thinking, have they just given up on Bryce Young? Is it over? Possibly. I don't think that's the case, though. I think it's more that they're going to have Andy Dalton come in, maybe steady the ship a little bit for some games, and then maybe after their bye week, you have Bryce Young come back in, maybe feels a little bit more comfortable in the offense with his weapons, maybe up against a couple of easy opponents, who knows, but I think it's time to, I understand the move by Dave Canales, but I also understand why Panthers fans may not be happy about this, because this year you really want to see what you have in Bryce Young. But there you have my bottom 3 teams, guys, and coming up next is going to be my top 10, and stay tuned because there are some crazy changes here. Coming in at number 10, we have the San Francisco 49ers, and that was a very tough loss on the road to Minnesota. It's been 32 years since we've won there. The Vikings thoroughly outcoached the 49ers, and we're going to talk about them later. But when you look at the 49ers, the offense never got in sync. The defense gave up multiple big plays, couldn't get off the field on 3rd down. It's inexcusable, that 97-yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson. Punt blocks. They got beat in all 3 phases of the game. You're missing Christian McCaffrey, who's going to be out at least another 3 games, potentially longer. Deebo Samuel is now going to miss a couple of games. Who knows when Hufanga is going to be back, hopefully soon. Dre Greenlaw, he's not going to be back for a while. So when you look at the 49ers, it wasn't good in Week 2. The good news, though, is you play the Rams, who have like 10 times more injuries than the 49ers. So hopefully for the Niners, this is a get-right game in Week 3. Then you have 2 home games following that one. Then you host the New England Patriots and the Arizona Cardinals, so not exactly a major gauntlet there, although both teams have been playing well so far. But I have the Niners dropping from 2nd all the way to 10 based on that performance in Week 2. And now at number 9 in the power rankings, another NFC West team, and that is the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are 2-0 on the year. Look, you can argue the quality of opponents isn't great who they beat so far. Week 1, the Denver Broncos. Week 2, the New England Patriots. But they're just looking really good up front defensively. Geno Smith is making enough plays to DK Metcalf. They have weapons in Lockett, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. They're missing Kenneth Walker for sure, but he'll be back pretty soon. And then you have Zach Charbonnet. But overall, I think it's a well-coached defense, a team who can run the ball and throw the ball. I think they're just a pretty solid all-around team. They don't really majorly excel in one certain spot, but I do think it's just a good overall team, and they're 2-0, so the Seattle Seahawks come in at number 9. And now at number 8, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers week 1 had a very ugly win over the Atlanta Falcons, and then they have another relatively ugly win over the Denver Broncos. But TJ Watt is looking just like the front runner for Defensive Player of the Year, with Fred Warner being right there with him. But I think TJ Watt's number 1. Look, it's going to take a while for Justin Fields to get comfortable in the offense. He is a little bit banged up, so he's somewhat questionable for week 3, but at least you do have a decent veteran guy to go to in Russell Wilson. But I do think with Arthur Smith, they'll get the ground game going. They'll be able to make enough plays, and they'll be able to win just ugly games. I foresee the Steelers maybe going 9-8, 10-7 with a lot of ugly wins like we've seen in the first 2 weeks of the season. At number 7 in the rankings, we have the LA Chargers, and who's got it better than them? Justin Herbert isn't having to do too much, because you have the emergence of J.K. Dobbins, who could never stay healthy in Baltimore, but doing a great job through 2 weeks with the LA Chargers. Plus, you have some really good defenders to back them up on that side of the ball. Great coaching with Jim Harbaugh. And I just think overall, this is a team, I think they remind me a little bit of the Seattle Seahawks, but just better because you have Justin Herbert instead of Geno Smith. So I like this team moving forward. I think the Chargers could end up being one of those teams that just maybe like upsets other teams in the playoffs. I like where this team is headed. The LA Chargers, what a great decision to get Jim Harbaugh when you have your quarterback too. At number 6, we have the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans, week 2, they beat the Chicago Bears. They made Caleb Williams look pretty bad. Week 1, they got a very close victory, a division game against the Indianapolis Colts. I think Houston is just a very solid team as well, and a team that's going to get better and better as the season goes on. CJ Stroud is just like ridiculously talented. The defense is making plays. Will Anderson is flying all over the place. So is Danielle Hunter. Derek Stingley is really having a breakout year at cornerback. Offensively, the big thing is, will Joe Mixon be healthy going forward? Because if the Texans can get that balance of run and pass, we know Stroud can air it out, but then if you can just kill him underneath with the run game, then I just really like this team. Also, they're 2-0. Everyone else in their division is 0-2. So maybe the Texans have the AFC South wrapped up already. Is that too early to say? Maybe, maybe not. But coming up next, guys, we're going to get into my top 5 teams heading into week 3. And at number 5, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on this one, we have the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings, week 1, destroyed the New York Giants, and everyone was kind of thinking, it's the Giants, that's to be expected. But week 2, the Minnesota Vikings beat the San Francisco 49ers, and it was so impressive. As a 49ers fan, I can comfortably say that we were thoroughly outcoached. Brian Flores was fantastic on the defensive side of the ball, and I think Kevin O'Connell did a great job of putting Sam Darnold in a position to succeed, but also he put a lot of faith in Sam Darnold. When you look at that 97-yard touchdown pass to Justin Jefferson, they're backed up at their 3-yard line. They do a play action. He's sitting in the end zone, waiting for that play to develop. That's a gutsy call, and that's putting a lot of faith in your quarterback, and it paid off extremely well with a huge play. But Minnesota just able to make timely plays. The big thing that you take away from this game was just third down. They stopped the Niners a whole bunch of times on third down, and when they were on offense, they picked up third downs. And the most impressive part of this game, I think at least, is that last drive, their last scoring drive. The Niners had just scored a touchdown. It was 20-14. We kicked the ball to Minnesota. They don't have Justin Jefferson at this point. On the first play of this drive, Aaron Jones goes out. There's no Jordan Addison. There's no TJ Hawkinson. And they're able to pick up third down, and ice the game. What a big time win for the Minnesota Vikings. And they're looking really good. They could be this year's surprise team. Or maybe maybe it's my next team at number 4, and that's the New Orleans Saints. And what a shocker. They go into Dallas, into Jerry's Coliseum, and just wipe the floor with the Cowboys. You know, for the 49ers, it's one thing to lose on the road in a pretty close game, but you look at the Cowboys at home, losing by 25 points or something crazy like that. At halftime, this game was over. Derek Carr is looking amazing. The defense is making plays. Alvin Kamara, and that's the big thing. Alvin Kamara is just looking like his old self, making plays just on those little dump offs where he then takes it for 50 yards, running the football. Olave, Rashid Shaheed is making plays down the field. Derek Carr airing it out. This looks like a team that's really hard to stop, and Dennis Allen doing a really good job on the defensive side of the ball. They have a good offensive line. They're balanced, and if it's not the Vikings, the New Orleans Saints could just completely just throw a wrench into everyone's power rankings and just be like, what the hell, where did these Saints come from? But the Saints are marching on. They're 2-0, both wins incredibly impressive by a large margin, scoring a lot of points. Super impressed by the Saints. Let's move on to number 3, and another very impressive team, an impressive win in week 2, and that's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers beating the Detroit Lions in Detroit. This is a rematch of the NFC divisional round playoff game last year. The Buccaneers, I'm sure they had this game circled on their calendar as soon as the schedule was announced. Week 1, they beat a not-so-great Commanders team. Week 2, they go in to Detroit and they make a statement. Baker Mayfield has looked really good through 2 games, but looked really good. Chris Godwin is back making plays all over the field. Mike Evans does Mike Evans things, and the defense has played really, really well. So the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, another team, you maybe could argue that they're another surprise team, although I did have them favored in the NFC South, and I think they're going to go on ahead to win it. Although suddenly, this NFC South looks pretty crowded with the Saints, the Buccaneers, and the Falcons just winning in Philadelphia. Who would have thought that? Now at number 2, guys, I have the Buffalo Bills. The Buffalo Bills in the first half of week 1 against the Cardinals did not look good, but the last 6 quarters of football that they've played have been amazing. The second half, they wiped the floor with Arizona, and Arizona could be a pretty good team for what they did to the Rams. Then week 2, it's a division game, Thursday night football. You go down into Miami and you wipe the floor with the Miami Dolphins. Just absolutely super impressive. And it wasn't even Josh Allen doing everything. It was James Cook, 3 touchdowns. Now, of course, we have to mention Tua Tagovailoa leaves the game. At that point, though, the game was already over, but he leaves the game. We all hope he's going to be okay, and whatever he decides to do with his future, we'll see what happens, and we have to respect his decision. But back to the Buffalo Bills, defensively looking great. Offensively, I think they're going to go from strength to strength to strength, and now the teams are really going to have to factor in and game plan for James Cook. I think that's going to free up Josh Allen to make plays to his receivers down the field, and that's where the Bills are at their most dangerous. And finally, at number 1, we all know who it's going to be. It's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, you could very well argue that they could easily be 0-2. Week 1, Isaiah Likely is just like this much away from tying up the game, sending it to overtime. Week 2, they get the pass interference call at the very end, which has caused some controversy. I think technically by the letter of the law, it was pass interference, but the problem is when we look at the pass interference in this game, the Cincinnati Bengals and Kansas City Chiefs, is people show the clip in slow motion where it looks like the defender hit him super early. But you have to factor in it's in real time. If you play it at real time, it's like bam, bam. And it's such a tough call. And a lot of these calls seem to kind of go Kansas City's way in these big situations. Now, just a gut punch if you're the Cincinnati Bengals, and for the NFL, because I think everyone outside of Missouri, Kansas City, we're kind of sick of this Chiefs, so we're kind of hoping for maybe luck to swing the other way a little bit. But I still think the Chiefs team is really good. Steve Spagnuolo does a good job with that defense. They have some really talented players there. Trent McDuffie is looking like an all-pro cornerback. Offensively, we know what they can do. However, it will be interesting moving forward to see how they do without Isaiah Pacheco running the football. Can Mahomes air it out? He's going to have to rely on those new weapons. Xavier Worthy, can he make a big time step up? Travis Kelce was held pretty well in check for a lot of that game, so there are question marks about the Kansas City Chiefs. However, you factor in, you beat the Baltimore Ravens, you beat the Cincinnati Bengals. Even though neither of those teams are in my top 10, I do think that they are both very good teams who could easily make their way back, whether it's next week or the week after. So I do have the Chiefs at number 1. But there you have it, guys. A lot of changes in this week's power rankings. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Whether you agree with me or whether you disagree with me, totally fine. And yeah, massive changes there. We're going to have some more videos coming throughout the week. Of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And before I head on out, I'm going to say 2 things, and that is the butt counts, and I'll catch you guys on the flip side.